Okay, and welcome to video 5. Video 5 is pretty exciting. It's how to melt candy melts, the Wiltons brand. They've got beautiful colors, and once you know the recipe, they're actually really good to work with. I do use candy melts over chocolate. There's a few reasons. Is because one is once you figure out how to melt candy melts, they're really easy to work with. And secondly, I don't have to try and make colors. The candy melts already come in these amazing colors. So I have definitely chosen to do candy melts, and I really want you to learn how to melt them as well so you can end up with a perfect pop. So for this, you're gonna need your microwave. Keep in mind for this recipe, my microwave is a 2400 watt microwave. If your microwave is different, the recipe may vary. So you'll just need to practice and see how you go with that. You're gonna need a plastic bowl. And I picked this up at my local gift shop for $2, and it has a lid, and it has ended up being one of the best little investments for me. And before doing this video, I actually bought another bowl to use for it, and using my recipe, for some reason, it didn't work out. So your bowl is even important on when melting candy melts. So I know a lot of bloggers and cake pop artists around are recommending a silicone bowl, and by far I would probably agree, but silicone bowls are so hard to find in Australia. I know you can buy them on Amazon.com, and they're probably around $17 each. So if you can invest, I mean, by all means do it. In the meantime, try out a couple of different bowls that will work a treat for you. So you've got your bowl. You're gonna need a knife, just a butter knife or a cake scraper to stir the candy melts through. A little spoon, whether it be a teaspoon or a tablespoon. This is just to test and see whether our candy melts are ready to go for dipping. You're gonna need a tablespoon measuring spoon, and you're gonna need your vegetable oil. Now, you have probably seen on different tutorials, books, blogs, that there are all different ways of having to thin your candy melts. I've chosen vegetable oil for this tutorial because it is worldwide. You can get vegetable oil anywhere in the world. It's cheap, and it's at your local supermarkets. There's other things that you can use, such as Paramount crystals, Kofar, vegetable shortening, but depending on where you are in the world and you know how accessible you are to these ingredients, it can be hard. So that's why I've chosen vegetable oil for this course, and also because it really does give a beautiful finish at the end. And that's what's really important. So for our Wiltons recipe, I've used the packet that is 340 grams. So if you are buying if you're using a different packet, then your recipe is going to be a bit different, so you're going to have to change it accordingly. So this is for the 12 Oz 340 gram Wiltons candy melts. So what we're going to do is we just get the candy melts out, pop them in to our bowl. I like to keep the packet nearby because as I'm stirring, I'll end up resting my spoons and my knives on the packet, so it just saves me cleaning up the bench later. So that's a little tip that you can use for later. So we'll pop that there. We'll grab our vegetable oil, and we're going to do 3.5 tablespoons in at the start. So 1, 2, 3.5. The reason I put it in at the start, I find it's very important that all ingredients should be heated up at the same time, so it gives that nice balance and it's easier to work with. So once they're in there, we just want to give it a good stir so we're coating all the candy melts into the vegetable oil, so it helps melt nice and evenly. Okay, that's nicely coated. We're then going to pop this into the microwave for 45 seconds on power level 7. Now, the settings on your microwave are really important because if you put this on high heat, it's going to burn the candy melts. So please follow this. There really aren't any shortcuts in melting candy melts. So the power level is really important. So 45 seconds, power level 7. Okay, so that's out of the microwave after the first 45 seconds. Now I can feel that my bowl is already starting to heat up down the bottom. So that's why when you take it out, it's really important that you give it a good stir, because even while it's out of the microwave, the candy melts are still heating up. So you need to give it a good stir for around 30 seconds to distribute that heat evenly. Candy melts tend to melt in the middle rather than the sides, so that's why you have to stir. And when it comes to candy melts, there really aren't any shortcuts, so please follow this recipe to the T. Okay, now we're going to pop it into the microwave again, but this time for 30 seconds on power level 7. Alright, so that's after 30 seconds. Again, I can really feel the bowl heated up, so it's really important that you stir in between. So we're giving it a really good stir, kind of smashing the candy melts as well because they're at the point of where they can break. So we want to really get that heat out and across evenly. This is a really good workout on the arms, so no gym that day. Okay, we want to do this for about 30 seconds. And you can see as we're stirring it, it's melting. So that's why I can't emphasize enough how important it is to stir in between. Oh, my arms have got to work out. All right, so that's after about 30-40 seconds of stirring, and I can feel that the bottom of my bowl has cooled down a little bit, so that's really important too. So now we're going to pop it into the microwave again for 30 seconds on power level 7. Okay, so that's heated up really quickly again. So now we need to give it a really good stir because it's still going to continue melting as we're stirring because it's quite warm. Okay, these are almost ready to go, but we're going to put them in the microwave again for just a short burst of 15 seconds at power level 7, and after that our candy melts are ready to rest. Okay, so now we have our candy melts ready to go. Well, let's give it one more stir, just for any little short bits that may, for some reason, not have melted. We give it a really good stir. Oh, that looks so good. Okay, so now the important thing in melting candy melts, you need to allow time to rest it. So this is, with cake pop making, it's all about timing and technique. So if you had put your balls in the freezer for 10 minutes, now's the time to get them out so they're resting, so they form the right temperature to go with the candy melts. This needs to rest in total of 10 minutes. So we're gonna put a beeper on we're gonna let it rest for 5 minutes. Once the 5 minutes is up, that's when we're gonna grab our cake balls and our sticks, and while it's resting for another 5 minutes, so we're using our time wisely, that's when we're gonna dip our sticks into the balls. So we're gonna let this sit for 5 minutes and get our cake pops out of the freezer. Okay, so our candy melts have been resting for 5 minutes. Now, so you utilize your time wisely, now's a good time to put your sticks onto the balls. So, because this needs to rest for another 5 minutes. So once it's been rested for 5 minutes, put your alarm on again for another 5 minutes, just so you know when it's at the right temperature to start dipping. So let's utilize our time, and we're gonna dip them into the sticks and then onto the ball. So I'm using my 6-inch lollipop sticks, the paper sticks. And what you need to do is just put a little bit of candy melts onto the stick. So no more than 1 centimeter. I usually do it probably about 0.7 centimeter, and I shake off any excess because you really don't need that much. So you grab your cake ball, and you'll see that once you flip it up, it's got a little flat side. Let's utilize that and use that as our wrong side, so we don't end up having a flat look on the top. So what you do, you just press your lollipop stick into the ball, probably about halfway through, and see how it's formed a bit of excess candy melts. There's 2 ways to get rid of it, and I think it's really important to get rid of that because you don't want that little blob at the end of the candy melt, at the end of the cake pop. So you've got 2 options here. First option is to grab your knife, and all you do is just swing it around so it removes the candy melts. So that's option 1. Second option is to repeat the same thing. Dip it a little bit into the melts, pop it in halfway through, and with your clean hands, give it a quick wipe so it removes all the excess. Now, if you do it that way, I'd recommend to have a baby wipe cloth or a wet sponge so you can continuously clean down your fingers so you don't end up with candy melts everywhere. Okay, so while you're still in your 5 minutes, these need a good couple of minutes to set so the candy melts dry up so they don't fall off the stick.